Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of an extra slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. This week, I'm going to tell you all about the history of the gunpowder plot and Bonfire Night, obviously that's celebrated every year on November the 5th in the UK. So, this this sort of thing about Bonfire Night sort of originates. It has a lot of political, historical context, because it relates to the act of the gunpowder plot that was headed by a guy called Guy Fawkes, who wanted to blow up the Houses of Parliament and to assassinate the sovereign at the time, who was James. And it was all to do with the Catholic. It was all to do with religion, and religion relates to a gap for public thanksgiving to the God, to God. This act again didn't this act of this Thanksgiving was not put into place until the year of 1859. And it became part of the public service of Thanksgiving that took place every year in the Church of England. Obviously, from the Church of England, we've got Henry VIII to thank for that, because through his marriage to Anne Boleyn and his divorce from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII broke from Rome, and then he became the supreme head of the Church of England. And through this common prayer book from the Church of England, this was how the National Festival of the 5th of November came around. Now, there are some evidence of things where we have some records of where we have some records of how November the 5th was sort of celebrated throughout the centuries. So, firstly, about the 17th century, they had a lot of bell ringing, disturbance of bell ringers, and this is how we got the wood for bonfires. Obviously, in other parts of the country, particularly in cities within the country of England, celebrations became more celebratory, more ecstatic, more sort of a big festival, and where people will go big on celebrations for Bonfire Night. And also, to mark the 5th of November festival, it was also marked with a number of church services that took place. So this would include a lot of Bible readings, spreading the word of God and so forth. And these sort of sermons put the memory of the gunpowder plot was in how that was put into people's minds, and it also contained a very powerful anti-Catholic anti-Catholic um anti-Catholic message, because obviously before, like Elizabeth I came to the throne, which is the middle daughter of Henry VIII from Anne Boleyn, his marriage to Anne Boleyn. Obviously, her sister Mary Tudor, the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, was a devout Catholic, and she became known as the Bloody Mary because, she burnt a lot of Protestants at the stake. But when Elizabeth came to the throne in 1558, then she wanted to return the country to a Protestant religion. Um, so that is where all the tension sort of stems from. Um, uh, and they did this in order to save the souls of the people of Protestant England, because obviously, um, you know, Mary I's reign was sort of very insecure. She only ruled for 5 years, but Elizabeth was like sort of more secure. She was ruled for over 40 years. So these like gunpowder plots for likes of Guy Fawkes and so forth, wanted to carry on the tradition of a Protestant English religion. Um, um, Obviously, as well, it also links with the fact that, the English also went to war because of, the thoughts of religion. So we obviously we know in the year 1588, firstly of all, after the death of Mary the First, like I've mentioned, in 1558, the English was made into a Protestant religious country because that was the faith of her younger sister, Elizabeth. But throughout her reign, Elizabeth also had a lot of unrest, religious unrest, and this came about from the Spanish king. Was it Philip, King Philip of Spain? And um in the year 1588, that was the year when the Spanish Armada came about, and that is a very famous battle in the times of um Elizabeth I, because that's when she was proclaimed Elizabeth the Golden Age, because of how she, under the against all the odds, she was more successful. England was victorious at the Spanish Armada, defeating the Spanish. Um, um, and these sort of sermons that were now being told in throughout churches were sort of a reminding Saviour of all the things that sort of England had suffered in order to get to this point. And the thought of, of the England returning to the Catholic religion sort of three people up in arms, but this is why it all came about to how it did. Um, so the gunpowder plot was plotted and failed. in the year of 1605. So it was 2 years after the death of Elizabeth I, and obviously 2 years after James the First, James the First of England, and James the Sixth of Scotland, and James the Fifth, Sixth of England came to the throne, because after the death of Elizabeth I, the Tudor dynasty was wiped out, because it finished, because Elizabeth had no surviving heirs, so it was passed on to the Stuarts to then take throne of England. And in the year 1606, in the month of January of that year, so the Parliament of the King's Parliament were able to hold a meeting for the very first time, and this within this meeting they were able to pass an act for a public thanksgiving to God every year, and this prayer book would be used every year on the 5th of November. And this prayer book played a major role in the annual services within church parishes, and England played a very important fact in prolonging the memory of this prayer book and the celebrations of November the 5th. So in 1688, James the Fifth, the Sixth, James the Sixth, and the First of England were replaced by another monarch, which was a monarch called William of Orange and his wife Mary. And William of Orange sort of was portrayed as the saviour of English Protestantism. So he again was a believer in the Protestant religion, and then we go to the year of 1841. This was the year that because of the gunpowder plot that was headed by Guy Fawkes failed. This was the year when a novel was published entitled Guy Fawkes or the Gunpowder Treason. And this was by a best-selling author of the time called William Harrison Ainsworth. And through this book, the author, William Harrison Ainsworth, was able to change the ever-changing attitudes towards Guy Fawkes, because through this book, the author was able to portray Guy Fawkes and other political figures within the gunpowder plot. They were no longer villains in his eyes. He was able to portray them in a more sympathetic way. And also, a few decades after, in 1870 to 1880, where they used to have a lot of Catholic, a lot of riots because of the feuding over Protestantism and the Catholic religion. These sort of died. People stopped doing these riots. It sort of became a thing of the past. Um, so instead of rioting like they did previously to mark the anniversary of, the gunpowder plot. It sort of took on a non-violent sort of approach. So there were a lot of civic celebrations and organised celebrations sort of took the place of the usually highly violent protests. Um, and obviously we know that on bonfire night people let off fireworks, so you will they say that the safest way is to attend a bonfire or firework display, and they have them in a lot of communities. And this came about because of an act that was introduced in 2003. Uh, this became known as the Fireworks Act, and this was to limit the sale of fireworks and ban their being left out on streets and place severe restrictions on public firework displays. Felt by some um, and as a result, not everyone was happy about this because they felt that this act was too restrictive. So, as a result of that act that was introduced in the year 2003, a lot of traditional firework sort of displays sort of and celebrations sort of died out. They were sort of not very popular anymore because of the restrictions laid upon them. 1 minute. Um, 1 minute. Um, Obviously, the 5th of November is sort of growing in a more historical context even later, because obviously, you know for more religious status, because um Charles II was unable to produce an heir. So after he died, there would be no heir, sort of, no son to take the throne after his death. So that meant that the next in line after his death would be his brother James, who at the time was the um, Duke of he was the Duke of York, and he succeeded because James II had no children. He succeeded his brother in the year 1673, and he again sort of got rid of the Catholic religion, the Protestant religion, and he did this through married a woman called Mary who was also a Catholic. Um, um, the fifth and the 70th, the fifth and also the 70th, and then we sort of have to like sort of go further back in history where we sort of see the Ascension Day of Elizabeth I, who returned England to the Protestant religion. And this was a very important day in the English Protestant yearly calendar. 1 minute, just let me get my notes. Um, it's also important to note that November the 5th, the date of November the 5th was very important as well to the American city of Boston. This was where to the city of Boston where rival working class people and people from the working class backgrounds would come to blows um, um, over the Pope, and they would sort of burn, effigies of the Pope. Um, and from this, the little scruffles and fights will break out because they all wanted to get their hands on and burn their different popes that they had. Um, the reason why people now tend to burn effigies of 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 Guy Fawkes rather than religious figures is because it wasn't the norm even in the 18th century to in the year of the 1800s, so the beginning of the 19th century, it wasn't the norm to to be an open critic of the Catholic religion. Um, um, the even though so in obviously in July, in November the 5th of like the anniversary of the gunpowder plot, it still became a hotbed for a lot of public order offences to take place. This was because these took place, these offences took place in a number of towns across the country of England. This was because became a new standard of public order was obviously demanded by the Victorian town councillors, and a desire among the lower orders to celebrate the gate in what they perceived to be the traditional manner. So you know, you had what people still wanting to fight, you know, from years gone by, but you had more people on the other side of things who wanted to sort of, you know, celebrate in a more calmly, in a more acceptable manner. Um, um, so 13 men were included in the gunpowder plot. This was, of course, as I mentioned before, it took place on the 5th of November 1605, and it included 15 men, 13 men, so 13 men took place, including Robert Catesby, and it was obviously headed by Guy Fawkes. He was the main instigator of the plot. And obviously, the gunpowder plot obviously was a failed attempt to blow up the Houses of Parliament into assassinate the King, James the Sixth, and the first James the Sixth of Scotland and James the First of England. Can you imagine if you can only imagine, can't you, if the plot had been succeeded, a monarch being assassinated, it would have created sparks, and pardon the pun, it would have created sparks and massive headlines all throughout the world. I wonder what would happen though if it did succeed. Um, um, and throughout this time, he saw, even though he narrowly escaped death and assassination, he would have been glad, of course, that he did escape assassination. So, as to mark the occasion, the English monarch did allow, you know, bonfires to be lit, as long as, you know, it was celebrated and remembered in a peaceful way without no fighting or public disorder. However, the celebrations didn't always remain, orderly, because particularly towards the late and towards the end of the 17th century, these sort of bonfires were becoming a much more loud and a much more ravenous affair. Because they sort of demanded money, so you sort of get that sort of where the tradition goes of the penny for the guy. Like people will push a pram round. I know my mum did this when she was younger with her friends. She would push a pram round with a stack up of Guy Fawkes and would knock on people's doors and say, "Penny for the guy," and that, I think that's where that sort of ritual comes from. And also as well, what the reason as well is why people burn, images of get of prophets, not prophets, but images of Guy Fawkes, for like put the Guy Fawkes on the bonfire and it'll burn to ashes. This arises from this stems from the year 1625, and this was when Charles I married a Catholic bride, and he then took on a Catholic wife, and this was sort of the inspiration behind immortalisation of prolific religious images. So it wasn't just, images, of Guy Fawkes who was sort of, thrown onto a bonfire. Fire, obviously, images of bishops were sort of thrown into a bonfire. You had a few suffragettes who were sort of got the bonfire treatment, and also, which found is quite shocking, really, which you don't blame people, is images of Adolf Hitler were sort of treated to the bonfire burning treatment, because we all know what a horrible human being he was. Well, you can't even call him a human being. It was a barbaric person with how he treated people, how he did. So that concludes this month. That concludes this week's episode of an extra slice of history of the Butterfly Princess. Hope you've enjoyed learning a bit about the history of Bonfire Night, and join me again next week when I will be recording another episode of an extra slice of history. So I hope you can join me for that. Until then, have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye.